The scent of sage and butter filled every corner of my kitchen. I'd been up since 5 that morning, hands deep in bread dough for the stuffing my grandmother taught me to make 60 years ago. The 20-pound turkey had been brining for 2 days in my extra refrigerator in the garage, and now it sat on the counter, golden and perfect, ready to go in the oven. Through the window, I could see the November sun just starting to peek over the fence, painting my backyard in shades of orange and gold. I pressed my palm against the turkey's cold skin, feeling the slight give under my fingers. This would be perfect. Everything would be perfect. My son Michael and his wife Jessica were coming with the grandchildren, Emma and Noah. 8-year-old Noah had called me 3 days ago, his voice bright with excitement. "Grandma Gloria, are you making your pumpkin pie? The one with the real whipped cream?" I'd laughed and promised him 2 whole pies just for him. I glanced at the dining room table, already set with my mother's china. The cream-colored plates with tiny blue flowers around the edges caught the morning light. I'd polished every piece of silver until I could see my reflection in the spoons. 4 place settings for the adults, 2 smaller ones for the children. The centerpiece was a simple arrangement of autumn leaves and pine cones that Emma had helped me collect the last time they visited. She'd been so proud of finding the biggest pine cone. My phone buzzed on the counter. A text from my neighbor, Susan. "Happy Thanksgiving! House smells amazing already." I smiled and typed back a quick reply. Susan would be having dinner with her daughter's family across town. We'd talked about it over coffee last week. She'd seemed almost apologetic, as if she needed to explain why she wouldn't be alone on the holiday. I'd reassured her, told her about my own plans. My family was coming, my son, who I'd raised alone after his father left when Michael was just 3. My son, whose college tuition I'd paid working double shifts as a nurse. My son, whose house I'd helped buy with $75,000 from my retirement account 3 years ago. The oven beeped. Time to put the turkey in. I hefted it into the roasting pan, tucked sprigs of fresh rosemary and thyme around it, and slid it into the oven. 6 hours at 325 degrees. They'd be here at 3. Perfect timing. I moved through the kitchen with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd cooked hundreds of holiday meals. Sweet potato casserole with the brown sugar and pecan topping that Michael loved. Green bean casserole with the crispy onions on top. Cranberry sauce from scratch, not the canned kind. Dinner rolls that I'd shape by hand and let rise one more time before baking. And those 2 pumpkin pies, cooling on the rack by the window. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Susan. "Did you see Jessica's Instagram? She's been posting all morning." I frowned slightly. I didn't really understand Instagram, though Emma had tried to show me how it worked on her tablet. I knew Jessica had a lot of followers. She called herself a lifestyle influencer, which as far as I could tell meant she took pictures of beautiful things and people paid her for it. She had tens of thousands of people who watched her life unfold in carefully curated squares. I opened my phone, fumbling with the icons until I found the Instagram app that Emma had downloaded for me. I typed in Jessica's name. Her page loaded, a grid of perfect images. The most recent one, posted 20 minutes ago, showed Jessica in my son's kitchen. She wore a cream-colored sweater and held a coffee mug, smiling at the camera. The caption read, "Thanksgiving prep vibes. Can't wait to host our first Friendsgiving this year. So grateful for chosen family." I stared at the screen, read the caption again. Friendsgiving, host, our first. The phone almost slipped from my hands. I caught it, my heart suddenly beating too fast. Maybe I was misunderstanding. Maybe this was something they were doing tomorrow, the day after Thanksgiving. Maybe this was just one of those posts that didn't mean what it seemed to mean. I scrolled through the comments. "So cute. Love the vibes. Can't wait to see what you cook." And then, from someone named at Chef Brittany, "See you at 3. Should I bring wine or champagne?" At 3. 3 o'clock. Today. Thanksgiving Day. The time they were supposed to be at my house. I set the phone down carefully on the counter as if it might explode. My hands were shaking. This had to be a mistake. Michael would have told me. We'd confirmed everything just 2 days ago. He'd said, "See you Thursday at 3, Mom." The kids are so excited. I picked up the phone again and called Michael's number. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. His voice, cheerful and distant. "Hey, you've reached Michael. Leave a message." The beep felt like a physical blow. "Michael, it's Mom. I saw Jessica's Instagram. I'm confused. Can you call me back?" My voice sounded thin and old in my own ears. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by food I'd spent 3 days preparing, and waited. The turkey roasted, the sweet potatoes baked, the house filled with the smells of the holiday I'd learned to create from my mother, who'd learned from hers. Outside, a car drove past, playing music. Someone laughed. The world continued as if nothing had changed. 20 minutes passed. 30. The timer dinged for the sweet potatoes. I took them out, set them on the cooling rack, moved mechanically through the kitchen, checked my phone. Nothing. At 11:30, my phone finally buzzed. Not a call, a text from Michael. "Hey, Mom. Sorry, meant to tell you earlier. Jessica really wanted to do Friendsgiving this year. It's kind of a thing with her work friends and followers. We're hosting. Maybe we can do something next week?" I read the text 3 times. Each time, the words stayed the same. The casual tone, the sorry, meant to tell you, the maybe we can do something next week, as if Thanksgiving were just any Thursday. As if the meal I'd spent 3 days preparing were just another dinner we could reschedule. My legs felt weak. I pulled out one of the kitchen chairs and sat down hard. The table I'd set yesterday mocked me with its careful arrangement. 8 places, 6 people who weren't coming. 2 children who wouldn't taste my grandmother's stuffing or fight over the last piece of pumpkin pie. I typed back with shaking fingers. "Michael, I've been cooking for 3 days. We had plans." The 3 dots appeared immediately, showing he was typing. They disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "I know, and I'm sorry. But this is really important for Jessica's brand. Her followers love this kind of content. You understand, right? You understand, right?" 4 words that expected me to swallow my disappointment, to smile and nod, to be the accommodating mother I'd always been, the one who said yes when Michael needed money for the house. The one who'd paid for Emma's private school tuition last year when they had cash flow issues, the one who babysat every Tuesday and Thursday so they could both work late, never mind that those were my only days off from my part-time nursing job at the clinic. I looked around my kitchen, at the turkey that would feed 8 people, at the casseroles and pies and rolls, at the china that had belonged to my mother, at the pine cone centerpiece that Emma had helped make. Something inside me, something that had been bending for years, finally snapped. I didn't text back right away. Instead, I stood up and walked through my house, really looked at it. The living room with the new carpet I'd installed last spring. Michael had admired it, said it looked great, then mentioned that he and Jessica were thinking of remodeling their kitchen, if only they had the funds. I'd written them a check for $15,000 the next week. The guest bedroom where Emma and Noah stayed when they spent the night. I'd painted it myself, bought new twin beds with space-themed comforters because Noah loved astronauts. The closet was full of toys I'd accumulated over the years, board games, art supplies, dress-up clothes. The grandchildren came over every Tuesday after school, and I fed them snacks and helped with homework while Michael and Jessica worked. Or while Jessica took photos of aesthetic coffee cups and curated her perfect online life. I walked back to the kitchen and pulled out my file box from the drawer by the refrigerator. Inside were bank statements, canceled checks, receipts. I'd always been careful with records. My nursing supervisor used to joke that I should have been an accountant. I started adding. The down payment for their house, $75,000. The kitchen remodel, $15,000. Emma's private school tuition last year, $12,000. Noah's medical bills when he'd had pneumonia, $4,000. The new car when Jessica's Honda died, $8,000. various smaller amounts over the past 8 years. Birthday money, Christmas gifts, emergency loans that were never repaid, groceries I bought and delivered when they were tight on cash, babysitting I did for free, 4 days a week. The total came to $98,743, almost $100,000. From my retirement savings, from the money I'd earned, working night shifts and double shifts, standing for 12 hours in uncomfortable shoes, dealing with difficult patients and demanding doctors, money I'd saved carefully, dollar by dollar, imagining a comfortable retirement, maybe some travel, maybe a small cruise, maybe just the security of knowing I wouldn't be a burden to anyone. I'd given it all to my son. Because that's what mothers do. We sacrifice, we give, we support, we show up. And when do we get shown up for? I picked up my phone again. Michael had sent another text. We'll definitely come by next week. Jessica wants to get photos of the kids with you for her family content. Her followers love grandparent posts. Her followers. Family content. I was content. Grandmother-shaped content for a perfectly curated feed. I typed, "When next week?" His response was quick. "Not sure yet. Jessica has a brand partnership thing Monday and Tuesday. Maybe Wednesday? Or the week after? She's got a busy schedule. Maybe Wednesday. Or the week after. Or whenever it was convenient for Jessica's brand." I looked at the turkey in the oven, golden and perfect. At the pies on the counter, at the tables set for people who weren't coming, at the life I'd built around being needed, and I realized something. I'd taught my son that my time didn't matter, that my efforts could be canceled with a text message, that I was always available, always accommodating, always understanding. I'd taught him that love meant sacrifice without reciprocation, that being a good mother meant accepting whatever crumbs of attention he chose to offer. I'd taught him wrong. I pulled up Susan's number and called. She answered on the second ring, her voice warm. "Gloria, happy Thanksgiving. Is everything okay?" "Susan," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "Do you know if the Community Hope Shelter downtown is serving Thanksgiving dinner today?" There was a pause. Yes, I think so. I saw something about it in the church bulletin. They always do a big meal. Why do you ask? Because I have enough food to feed 20 people. And I'd like to share it. Would you like to come with me? Another pause, longer this time. Then, softly, "Gloria, what happened? My family isn't coming." And I realized that there are people who would actually appreciate a home-cooked meal. People who won't cancel at the last minute for something more important. "Oh, Gloria, I'm so sorry." "Don't be sorry. Help me pack this food up. We're going to have Thanksgiving with people who deserve it." Susan arrived 20 minutes later with her Tupperware containers and coolers. We worked together in my kitchen, packing up the turkey, the casseroles, the rolls, the pies, everything except 2 place settings of my mother's china, which I left on the table. One for me, one for Susan. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Susan asked as we loaded her SUV with containers of food. "Maybe Michael will." "Michael made his choice," I said. "And I'm making mine." We drove to the Community Hope Shelter in downtown. I'd driven past it hundreds of times but never stopped. It was a simple building with a hand-painted sign out front. Inside, volunteers were setting up long tables in a community room. A woman with gray hair and kind eyes approached us. "Can I help you?" "I brought Thanksgiving dinner," I said, "for whoever needs it." Her eyes widened as she looked at the containers Susan and I carried. "Is this all homemade?" 3 days' worth of cooking, I said. It shouldn't go to waste. Her name was Margaret, and she was the director. She called over other volunteers, and they helped us bring everything in. The turkey, still warm, the casseroles, the pies. They set it all out on a serving table, and people started coming. Families with children, elderly people alone, veterans, people who looked like they carried the weight of hard lives. A little girl, maybe 5 years old, stopped in front of the pumpkin pie. Her eyes went wide. "Is that real?" she whispered to her mother. Yes, baby, her mother said softly. It's real. Can I have a piece? We'll see. Maybe if there's enough. I knelt down so I was eye level with the little girl. What's your name? Lily. Well, Lily, I made that pie especially for children. You can have as big a piece as you want. And if you really like it, you can have seconds. Her face lit up like I'd given her the moon. I stayed for 3 hours. Susan and I served food, talked to people, heard stories. A man named Robert told me about losing his job 6 months ago and how hard it was to find another one at 62. A woman named Carmen showed me pictures of her grandchildren, who she hadn't seen in 2 years since her daughter moved to Arizona. A teenage boy ate 4 plates of food and thanked me 7 times. These people saw me, not as convenient content or free childcare or a source of money, just as Gloria, a woman who made a good turkey and cared enough to share it. When Susan and I finally left, Margaret hugged me. You gave us more than food today, she said. You gave us dignity. A real, homemade Thanksgiving. In the car on the way home, Susan was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Are you okay? I'm better than okay, I said, and I meant it. When I got home, my house was quiet. I sat at my kitchen table with the 2 place settings still there. I'd stopped at the store on the way home and bought a rotisserie chicken, some rolls, and a small container of stuffing. Susan and I ate together, 2 women who'd learned that family isn't always about blood. My phone buzzed several times that evening. Michael, calling. I let it go to voicemail. Then Jessica, also calling. Voicemail. A text from Michael. Mom, please call me back. Jessica is upset. Another text. We didn't think you'd be this upset. It's just one Thanksgiving. Just one Thanksgiving. After 28 years of Thanksgivings I'd hosted. After 28 years of being the one everyone counted on to show up, I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my banking app and did something I should have done years ago. I set up a separate savings account. Then I calculated 15% of my monthly income, the amount I'd been regularly loaning to Michael and Jessica, and set up an automatic transfer to the new account. Money that would be mine. For me, for my retirement, for my life. Then I sent a single text to Michael. I love you, but I'm not available to be taken for granted anymore. When you're ready to have a real conversation about respect and boundaries, call me. Until then, I need space. I turned off my phone and went to bed. The next morning, Black Friday, I slept until 9. When I finally got up, I made myself coffee and sat on my back porch, watching birds fight over the feeder. My phone was still off. The house was quiet, and for the first time in years, I felt something like peace. Susan called my landline around noon. How are you holding up? Surprisingly well, I said. I'm thinking about what Margaret said yesterday, about dignity. I've spent so many years being useful, being needed, being available. I forgot about being valued. What are you going to do? I'm going to stop giving money to Michael and Jessica. I'm going to stop babysitting 4 days a week unless it's truly an emergency. I'm going to start living my own life. Good for you, Susan said firmly. You know, my book club meets on Tuesday evenings. We'd love to have you join. I'd like that. And I've been thinking about taking that watercolor class at the community center. Want to come with me? Yes, I said, and I meant it. I turned my phone back on that afternoon. 17 missed calls, 12 text messages, most from Michael, increasingly frantic. The last one, sent at 2 in the morning. Mom, I get it. I screwed up. Can we please talk? I called him back. He answered immediately. Mom, let me talk first, I said. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed, and I'm done being taken for granted. I know. I'm sorry. Jessica and we talked last night. Really talked. She didn't realize how much time and money you'd been giving us, she thought. I don't know what she thought. Michael, I've given you nearly $100,000 over the past 8 years. Not loaned, given, because you never paid any of it back. Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, I didn't realize it was that much. I know you didn't, because I never asked you to pay attention. I just kept giving. That's my fault as much as yours. But it stops now. What does that mean? It means I'm not your bank anymore. It means if you need babysitting, you need to ask me at least a week in advance, and respect it if I say no. It means Jessica can't cancel plans with me last minute for her Instagram followers. It means you treat me like I matter. More silence. Then, you do matter, Mom. I'm sorry I made you feel like you don't. I know you are, and I love you. But love isn't enough. Respect is what matters. Can we come over? Today? The kids want to see you. I almost said yes, almost fell back into the pattern. Then I looked around my quiet house, thought about the peace I'd felt that morning. Not today. I need time, but you can come next Saturday. We'll have lunch. A real lunch, where we sit down and talk. No phones, no Instagram, just family. Okay, he said. Next Saturday, I promise. After I hung up, I sat for a long time, thinking about promises, about the ones I'd kept and the ones others had broken, about the one I needed to make to myself. I pulled out my laptop and opened a document, started writing. Things I wanted to do, places I wanted to go, a cruise to Alaska I'd always dreamed about, a watercolor class, Susan's book club, maybe even online dating, though the thought terrified me. At the top of the list, I wrote, "Learn to value my own time as much as I value others." It was a start. 2 weeks later, on a cold December morning, I was leaving the community center after my first watercolor class when I ran into Margaret from the shelter. "Gloria," she said, her face lighting up. "I was hoping I'd see you again. I wanted to ask we're doing a Christmas dinner, and I wondered if you might want to help. Not cooking," she added quickly, "unless you want to, but we could really use someone to help coordinate volunteers." I thought about it, about the little girl Lily and her wide eyes when she saw the pumpkin pie, about Robert and Carmen and all the others who'd made me feel seen. "I'd love to," I said, "but I have one condition." "What's that?" "My grandson Noah comes with me. He's 8, and I think he's old enough to learn about giving back." Margaret smiled. "I think that sounds perfect." That Saturday, when Michael and Jessica came over with the children, I told them about volunteering at the shelter, about the watercolor class, about the book club I'd joined, about the life I was building that wasn't centered on being available to them. Emma listened intently, then said, "Grandma, can I come to the shelter too? I want to help." Jessica looked uncomfortable. Michael looked proud, and I looked at my granddaughter and saw the beginning of something better. "Yes," I said, "you can come too." That Christmas, we did have dinner together, at my house, with my mother's china, but it was different. Michael and Jessica brought the turkey. They'd cooked it themselves, though they called me twice for advice. Jessica left her phone in her purse the entire evening, and when it was over, they helped clean up without being asked. It wasn't perfect. Old patterns don't disappear overnight. But it was better, real, built on respect instead of just obligation. The day after Christmas, I bought my ticket for the Alaska cruise. It left in May, and I'd be gone for 2 weeks. When I told Michael, I waited for him to object, to tell me it was inconvenient, to ask me to change my dates. Instead, he hugged me and said, "I'm glad you're doing something for yourself, Mom. You deserve it." And for the first time in a long time, I believed him. I still think about that Thanksgiving sometimes, about the food I cooked that no one came to eat, about the disappointment that finally cracked open something in me that needed to break, about the choice I made to redirect my love toward people who valued it. People ask me if I regret it, if I'm angry. I tell them no, because that Thanksgiving taught me the most important lesson, that setting boundaries isn't selfish, that saying no to being used isn't mean, that I can love my son without sacrificing myself, and that sometimes the family who appreciates you most isn't the one you were born into, but the one you choose to serve. I'm 64 years old, and I'm just now learning to live for myself. But better late than never. I have my watercolor class on Tuesdays, book club on Wednesdays, and I volunteer at the shelter every other Saturday with Noah and Emma, who fight over who gets to serve the pumpkin pie. Michael still needs help sometimes. Last month he asked to borrow money for a new roof. I said no. I offered to help him research home equity loans instead. He was surprised, maybe a little hurt, but he did the research, got the loan, fixed his own roof. And you know what? He called me afterward to say thank you. Not for the money. For teaching him he could do it himself. That meant more than any amount I could have given him. This Thanksgiving, I'm cooking again. But it's for the shelter's annual dinner. Susan and I are coordinating 50 volunteers, and we're expecting to serve 300 people. My mother's china will stay in the cabinet. We'll use disposable plates. And it will be the most meaningful Thanksgiving I've ever had. Michael and Jessica are coming too. They're volunteering. Jessica even posted about it on Instagram, though this time she asked me first if it was okay. Her followers loved it, said it was authentic and inspiring. I don't care about her followers, but I care that she asked, that she's learning that people aren't content, and that my time has value. Emma told me last week that when she grows up, she wants to be like Grandma Gloria. Not because I cook good pies or give her money, but because, as she said, you're brave enough to be yourself. Out of the mouths of babes. I saved myself that Thanksgiving, not by getting revenge or cutting people off, but by finally understanding that love without respect is just another word for being used. And that the most loving thing I could do for myself and for my family was to teach them that I matter too. My retirement account is growing again. Slowly, but surely, I might not have that fancy cruise to Alaska anymore. I upgraded it to 3 weeks in New Zealand. I'm going with Susan. We leave in April. And when people ask me about that Thanksgiving when my son chose Instagram over me, I smile and tell them the truth. It was the day I chose myself, and that made all the difference.